Hey, Michelle, what do we do today?
Hey, Mattie. So, we actually have some breaking news we're going to talk about today. So, that's pretty exciting. We're going to talk about California, which just passed a law that officially banned legacy and donor admissions. So, it's pretty big breaking news. I mean, if we were CNN, we'd have like the Chiron going across the screen,
Dun dun
saying,
dun. Yeah,
exactly. And, who knows, this could shake things up in the college admissions landscape. So, you ready to dive in?
I can't wait. Let's do it.
All right, awesome. Okay, so let's start with the basics and kind of go through the background of this law. So it was just passed a few days ago, September 30th. And the law basically says that private nonprofit colleges in California will be banned from giving preference in the admissions process to applicants who are related to alumni of the school or donors of the school. And this was just signed by the governor, Gavin Newsom. So it, in effect, bans legacy and donor admissions starting in 2025. Now, the University of California, that system already has this ban since the 90s. So this is actually going to affect schools like USC, Stanford, Claremont McKenna, Harvey Mudd, and Santa Clara. And obviously, these are some of the most competitive colleges in the country. So before we kind of dive in, Mattie, what for people who don't know like what legacy admissions and donor admissions is, what's kind of your explanation of that?
And we're going to introduce a new segment, which is I
Uh-oh.
am now. So, a real problem I had with this podcast is that there are a lot of things that I say, and they tend to range from things that are factual to things that are my opinion, which we can get to. But then there's stuff that I really do believe, and I do say it to people who pay me. However, I cannot prove it, and I might be wrong, and I look like a real piece of garbage if I did. So this is a new hat. This is basically the "Dude, Just Trust Me" hat because I have no sources. I have no like proof. But here's my take on why legacy exists. Because the thing that I always found interesting about legacy is that these schools are like so determined to keep it. You know, like it's fitting. Like the controversy of it, we could probably get to like why. I think it's a lot of people know like why it's such a controversial concept and like kind of silly, but it would be such a yeah. It seems like this was not Stanford and USC, which we'll be talking about mostly in California, coming out and be like, fine, we give in. It was Gavin Newsom, right? It was like the state itself, like, no, cut this shit out. And it would not shock me if the powers that be are trying to fight this one way or another, trying to appeal it. I don't know, like they want legacy admissions, and I've always refused to believe it's just because these schools are so like we just love having the families, you know. It's about
Right.
that like you're
But we're
like
fostering loyalty
yeah,
and
or it's like
community.
these schools they come under enough fire about different issues every year. You know, like in the last year they've been under like, all sorts of they don't really. You think they would take like an easier dub once in a while, or at least stop taking L's on a concept that is obviously causing a lot of like trauma for them, and also pisses a lot of people off. Like I get why
Hmm.
late submissions is so controversial. Um, I guess still that like my take on it is like I don't care that much. Like aggressively neutral is the term you're going to be hearing from me about a lot of things in this process. But why it exists though? So you mentioned legacy and donor admissions, and I don't. Did this law ban donor admissions as well, or is it just legacy?
Both.
Okay, so that's a big deal. So yeah, that's why this is going to be. I doubt this last we're going to hear about this because
Agree.
there are
Yeah.
two basic passes. One is donor missions. I believe it's called the Dean's Exempt List. So this is where the hat starts coming really in handy. Is that at schools, especially top schools around the country, you can there's a list that the dean makes, writes out, and it's a list of names, and basically those kids get in unless there's a damn good reason why not. I mean a damn good reason, and you're going to have to like you're going to have some explaining to do if you don't. And that list tends to be like very close friends, maybe children of diplomats, like very powerful
Hmm.
people's children, as well as those who have crossed a certain like monetary threshold in order to get on that list in the first place. And basically, this is all complete conjecture. The line I've always heard about like $10 million is the starting price for to get on that list. That if $10 million, if you could get into that school already, theoretically. So you have your four. It's Harvard. You have your 4.0. You have your 1550. You were an excellent student. then, as I understand it, like hats on, there's a guy who will come meet you if you have the right people. There's also double hats on. This is what a lot of like the super expensive firms are good at. It's like making these connections. I'm not that dude. But like they're like you go get like the most expensive, the most elite, well known like part of their game is they connect you with these men in suits who come and meet you at a very nice restaurant that I don't know who pays for. But basically, and the line I've heard is like $10 million is the starting price. And if your child basically has the goods already and like could get in, so like probably wouldn't, but like has basically the stats are basically the 4.0 and like the or
Right.
like 3.95 kind of thing, and then the SATs. Then $10 million and you get on that list. However, if your child does not have it's like a 3.7 or like what have you,
Mm-hmm.
like that number goes up dramatically very quickly. So like they do not want now if you have a 1350, well then test optional comes in and like that's a whole it's a whole other bag of worms, Michelle. Extracurriculars, I'm not as sure. I doubt they matter as much as the GPA because that's what these schools are ranked by. Like they can't get away from that. That's always why I come back to it. But that list is only like 100 people, and it's you don't like obviously like, you only give so many kids like get like free passes into your school at these universities.
Exactly.
And also like that's a pretty high bar to reach, but you want to keep it high. Like you want it to be this exclusive magical list. And if you give away to it silly, it dilutes it, supply and demand. But you still want money is the problem for these
Mm-hmm.
schools, and thus comes legacy admissions. And this is the speech I give to legacy parents. I ask, are you a good legacy or a bad legacy? And
Interesting.
then they always go, "Rrr," and I go, well, let me explain. And well, a bad legacy is still better than nothing. It's not worse, but a bad legacy is probably more common. They graduated 20x years ago. They really haven't checked in. Now they want their child to attend the same school, and they're certainly willing to pay for it. And but that's like they just went there. That is better than nothing. I would still have that student full stop apply early, either early decision or restricted early action to that university in question. It's very important. However, I would not really be like weighing it much higher. Like I would give it. It's not worse. Definitely not worse. And
Mm-hmm.
we would play the game, and then um, I think in that case the key is like you play early. Like you get a little gold star. Like they do know you mention it, and it can't hurt. But like that's what a bad legacy is. A good legacy is, let's just say theoretically you graduate from Harvard in 1985. Like I don't know ages. I don't have no idea how old parents and children are anymore. I'm like let's say 1985, and over the next 30 no, it'd be like it's like how old times the flat circle. So let's say you graduate in 1995, and over the my age 1991, so that's 33 years ago, and over the next they have a kid like 16 years after that. Over the next 30 years until your child is applying, you go to every single overpriced shitty swordfish luncheon that they have that, and you're in community events and what have you, and that's all great, but all those $1,000 plates are like every time you're spending $1,000 for whatever fundraiser they're going because Harvard needs the help. And you eat your fish and you're going all these boring things. You're also involved in the community, but let's go double back to the money. And also, oh, hee like here, there, I gave $100,000 to their fund in 2005. I gave $50,000 3 years later. I gave a quarter million 3 years before my kids apply. Oops, don't tell anybody. Well, these schools are run like investment banks, and every dollar you've given them is in an Excel spreadsheet with accumulated interest, and they have full breakdown of like what you spent. And this is a way for you to tee one way or another over 30 years, give the school probably $600,000-$700,000 maybe. That is actually more like $2.2 million after they've invested because it's basically a hedge fund. And then then your child applies and they are an excellent student, and we'll get to that. As like legacy students are strong students often in their own regard.
Right.
If the kid is a 3.7, they ain't getting into shit. However, well then you did basically give them 2.2 million after inflation, kind of after the investments,
Mm-hmm.
and they are a strong student, and then they do get in, and then I guess the whole key is everyone gets to wipe their hands of it. Like you don't have to tell everybody as a parent that you gave this money. You never mentioned it. The school
Right.
doesn't have you on any list. They don't have to note anything. It's just they let you in because he's a strong student. And tee hee hee, I guess being a legacy helped.
Mm-hmm.
And that is my hat comes off. That is my overall. People on TikTok are like, why are they wearing a hat? um, that is my overall best kind of somewhat conspiratorial, if you will, a discussion of why legacy admissions is so sternly and fiercely defended by these elite universities because they have the books and they know Like it's not even just kids who get in, or they don't let your student in, don't let your kid in. Like, oops, sorry. Like, what the hell are you gonna do about it? They were donations, so like they get paid either way. And once your kids are out of the process, like they don't like. Also, this entire process, basically, you think they're making the same money if like they don't have that carrot,
Hmm.
or they're having all these alumni going to their crappy functions and supporting all their stupid shit. Like, of course not. It's incredible value, like mostly monetarily, but also just structurally in having this dangling carrot of all your former who tend to be very powerful, influential people if they went to Harvard, Stanford, Yale, etc.
Exactly.
And
And
that's why they want it,
yeah.
and that's why Gavin Newsom has to step in and tell them to stop. And why it's also why I guess like we'll go to your next question, but it's also why legacy only really matters to me. Like at the top, like there's an article I should have emailed it to you. Like, there was an article about like maybe like 6 months ago where some liberal arts college that even I barely ever heard of like banned legacy admissions. and and like you mentioned Santa Clara, and I was going to dump on them as well. And it was like I remember, and everyone else was like, "Wow, what a powerful state!" Like I'm so happy for them. Like okay, it's like hey, I'm also banning legacy admissions at College with Mattie. Like I'm no longer going to give
Yeah.
preference to I'm not going to give preference to citing students to pay me to work with them that like their parents or their siblings worked with me. Like it's a bold statement. But I have to put the line in the sand somewhere, Michelle. The time is now. Next question.
So I think, California making this move, enacting this law, it's kind of a part of more of a national conversation around, fairness in college admissions being transparent and equitable. So we had like Varsity Blues scandal a few years ago. And of course, recently, in the last year or so, Supreme Court decision to basically totally eliminate race-based admissions, affirmative action. So there's a lot of pressure there. And I think, proponents of having legacy and donor admissions are saying, let's foster community. This helps us have scholarships and build programs when we get these donations. But if we have eliminated race as a factor in admissions, shouldn't we also eliminate these built-in advantages for the privileged, wealthy, and connected families?
Yeah. So my overall thoughts are thoughts on the affirmative action case. Like that's another episode.
Yeah.
Like there's reading that question, I stopped using this joke because some parents didn't get it, but I tend to work with we work with Asian and Indian families. It's not all, but like that is doesn't particularly go to Mount. And I found so the weird irony is that when I get a legacy, which I would say like is relatively rare, about one a year,
Hmm.
I would say we get legacy. So it's not very common. That's probably why I'm okay with it going away because like at the end of the day, it helps my students probably more than not because I don't have that many legacy students. And
Right.
but something I can't help but notice is that the history of college admissions is that I would say that it was predominantly white, like students going there until like around like the mid 80s. And it's my understanding that is when there was a large influx of Indian and Asian students, both like going to higher education, but also in America, but also attending these schools. And that's why I use 85. Like it's probably more like 88 now or what have you. But because 85 was when I was making the joke. Because if you run the timeline, that's roughly the time it takes someone to like go and graduate college, then have their own child, and now that child is applying to college. And I mentioned multiple times, like I can't help but notice the irony that we want to cut out legacy admissions at the exact moment it would actually help out like a Chinese family.
Mm. Oh, interesting. Yeah.
The timing of it is peculiar.
Yeah.
It's not when they were going initially.
A little
It's
uncanny there.
the exact moment where it's their turn. That's when suddenly like this is not okay. It has to stop. And that's that. Like hats back on for that. Like I don't know. Like just trust me. Like I don't know. What was your original question on it though? Because that's my takeaway is as it relates to race is.
Yeah.
And I don't really have an opinion on that, but that is something that I find notable. And maybe
Yeah.
you at home, you think I'm an idiot or like, oh my God, he's right. This is bullshit. But
Like on one end of the spectrum, if we've eliminated race-based admissions, shouldn't we take out these kind of, advantages that are built in for the privileged?
yeah, so this goes back into like, and I just like your opinion as well. Once I have is that when it comes to both, like these are kind of the two sides of the coin, and like the third broken side is athletes, which like
Right. That's a whole other.
That's a whole other thing. Like those
Yeah.
like do not get why because those do not bring in millions of dollars, and those do not. Like athletes, like I love y'all. Like sign up, it's so easy. But it's two sides of the same coin, and both is aggressively neutral. I guess we talked about like my actual thoughts on is this good or not? Should there be these processes? I guess my overall take on a lot of school stuff almost gets like libertarian in that you don't have to apply. Like I can tend to believe that schools have the right to kind of do what they want to do. And I feel like I almost have to feel that way because it saves my time and energy for like helping students like navigate this maze. Is that like I have to accept the maze as it is. I get more angry honestly when like their actual application system I find like to be like flawed or like arrogant or difficult to apply in the first place. Like non-accessible work upsets me a lot more than them having overall institutional priorities or what have you that may or may not impact my students in a positive or negative way. I guess that in general, yeah, like I that's the thing. Like aggressively neutral is my professional stance. My personal stance is also neutral. Like it's I get why. Yeah, I wish I had like a bolder take on it, but it really is I shield myself with the like I'm just an assassin. I just get kids in thing. But like my general take is like I do see both sides of the situation. I would probably say that like legacy is unfair, I guess, if I had to pick. It doesn't seem terribly fair to me that students who quite honestly already are going to more often not have incredible advantages in this process in the nature of if your family, if your parents, your family, and that's another aspect of it is the reason I think legacy students do so well is they often tend to also be very strong applicants. That for the same reason that their parents have been able to go to all these crappy luncheons and throw some money around,
Exactly.
money is at the core of this, just like it is in so many things with college. What are
and
your thoughts?
they can afford a consultant.
Yeah, and like I'm part of that too as well. Yeah, like, me and ChatGPT. It's like it's just a throwback. What are your thoughts? I've never asked you. Like, what are your personal thoughts on legacy missions?
I mean, I guess I kind of agree with you from a professional standpoint, but from a parental standpoint, I have a different take because I'm more leaning towards if to get rid of any kind of advantage, like just make make it a level playing field. If you're going to do something on one side, you need to make it on the other side too. So
I will say I'm more favor of affirmative action than I am legacy because I believe that the motivations behind affirmative action policies are a lot more. They definitely are in the weeds of. There's definitely some like nasty things I can say about them with the hat on, but yeah, like the I would say like the theoretical and reality of why schools choose to do that is a lot easier for me to stomach. It makes a lot more sense to me versus what I really do believe is like that I put the hat on, but that's the only thing that makes sense to me of why they'd fight so hard for it and why it's only these top schools that seem to care so much. It's because legacy doesn't matter. Like if legacy really mattered, you would have all these other schools fighting for it. It really was about keeping the gang together or what have you. But it's not like because there's no care. Like legacy doesn't mean anything if you're applying to a Tulane like I went. Like my kids will be able to get. There's no carrot there. I don't think about it. And like like related, I don't go to any Tulane. I'm not giving Tulane my money. They got enough while I was there. And I guess if there's one person I would be interested to talk to an actual legacy parent about like what, because I will say though, like most legacy parents are bad legacies. Like that's what they bring up. And then when I kind of talk to them about it, like they get very embarrassed, like, oh no, we're doomed. And I go like, no. But like, yeah, I guess I'm against it, but like I'm not strongly enough for this to be anything like Mattie slams legacy and mentions these schools do so many different things that I may or not agree with. It's almost like these are businesses, and I guess that double makes sense why they want to keep this process. And so it's both explains why they want to do it, and also kind of why I let them get away with it, like why I don't have that is not on the list of 50 things I want to change about this application. Not on the list of 20 things I want to change about the college application process. It just doesn't. Maybe because it doesn't impact me that personally that much. Like I say like about one legacy student a year. We usually apply. Its results have been mixed. Maybe if I had better or worse results, I might have a stronger view of what it really means. But okay.
So do you think this law is going to have like actual real world implications for the college application process? Like talking about the legacy student, they've kind of lost that little safety net they had. Do you think they should maybe shift application strategies?
Those are two different questions. So the first one is what have any effect? So part of my job is like reading crystal balls, tea leaves type stuff. I have learned, actually, honestly, the hard way is that I do need to pay attention to these big news stories. Like news stories do matter in results. Where, however, I need to balance like making sure I pay attention and care. Because when I've been like, it's nothing burger, like that was the affirmative action decision. I was like, doesn't matter, doesn't matter. Like, I
Right.
don't know. And I was pretty much wrong, both in that, well, A, it changed the application process itself with the questions, and that's something we had to do. But then similarly, my strategy for legacy admissions, is, I guess this is important to note, is you basically apply early to that school. It doesn't go that much further than that. No, like making Stanford pancakes with dad, like no sweater part. Like you don't write about it in the application. You write where your parents went to school, and they know. And then one or another, might be a box to check. I don't know, but they know, and it doesn't change much at all of the overall application strategy, except of where you are going. And in this regard, for at least for this year, so this particularly would be for like a USC or a Stanford, right?
Right.
Quite honestly, I wasn't aware that like USC like legacy was such a big deal. Like Stanford makes sense. When you think of legacy, you tend to think of the Ivies. You know, you tend to think
Right.
of. I know MIT doesn't. I believe MIT doesn't have it. Full stop. If a student's well, yes, if a student's parents went to Stanford, said we were applying reciprocal action to Stanford. Full stop.
Mhm.
If they applied early, if they went to USC, I'd be like, you want to go to USC? And they go, yeah, and they go like every time they go, meh. And I would go like, okay, well, we'll be applying early action, like I would just do on November 1st, like I guess like we always do, and they'll go, oh, okay, and then October 16th, they'll be like, all right, are we done? You're like, I want to do USC, and I'll go, oh,
So we have all those short questions we have to do.
and I'll go, are you applying to Dornsife? And they'll go, what's Dornsife? I'll go, I don't know, but can you check? I'm like, I don't know what that is. Like, just check if you're in Dornsife. And then they're like, yeah, I'm in Dornsife. Like, crap, we have another essay. So that would be the same thing. If like students this year, if you plan to go to Stanford, if you are a Stanford legacy in that case, I still believe that you should be applying early to Stanford this year.
Okay.
And I don't know if you'll be negatively impacted. However, do you know if this is going in immediately? This Newsom decision?
2025.
Okay, so I believe, yeah, I would imagine they've grandfathered this year in. So like this year is business as usual. If you are a legacy to Stanford or USC, but mostly like Stanford is go ahead and pull the trigger. You want to be applying restricted early action. And that goes for any legacy student for the school. That's the most important thing because what I really believe legacy does more than anything, you get a gold star on your application. That's what hooked kind of means to me.
Okay.
They are guaranteed to read it maybe more than they would have otherwise in a very busy early round. Starting next year. Well, I guess I would need to know more about what banned really means because
That's a good point. Yeah.
we learned that's what we learned through the Supreme Court decision that well they banned it, and this should be like an upcoming episode. Is like what they did is they basically added a application question that essentially it was going to essentially like allows you to talk about your racial background or your ethnic background in a way that is like plausible deniability. You know, it's like and every single school, and they still have them this year. Although I need to do a check of supplements. Like I think some of the schools got rid of it. Like who knows? But that was the case last year. It's like these schools tend to want to do whatever the hell they want to do.
Yeah.
Like honestly, if I got a Stanford legacy next year, I go, that sucks, bro. By the way, before I start,
Bummer.
bummer. Like yeah. But we would still be applying early.
Okay.
And I would need to know more about like what this ban really means. Is that because you still get to write where your parents went to college on the application, and they not see that? Like that would be the. Is there? I don't know if there's information or that this is California politics that we'll learn about it as we go.
Yeah.
But like my guess is that, yeah, this will come. I guess the question is, would I make some subtle reference in the Stanford supplements about their parent going to the school?
Mm-hmm.
And I would definitely want to. That's the question, and I don't know. My guess is no, because it would come off as tacky.
Makes sense. Yeah, I can see that.
It would come off as tacky, and I would say there's no way this actually helps. It could backfire. So that's probably because that's one thing you can do, right? Like if they don't know, you have to basically sneak it in somewhere. And my guess, I would probably go against it just because it would backfire, and I would have students just fill out the application the same way as always and wonder what ban really means.
Yeah. So I guess the flip side then, students from underrepresented backgrounds applying to Stanford or USC, is there a shift in their strategy when they apply?
Well, I think that's an upcoming episode is because these are two sides of the same coin. It's like there's a theoretical underprivileged background / legacy, which I have literally had as a student, and will not like it was rad. Like,
wow.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. Like that was a wild one. That was before you were around.
But do you think this law will help? students from underrepresented backgrounds?
With the Supreme Court decision, I tend to range somewhere between like it's not going to change a damn thing and like, well, this will help insofar as this is a zero sum game, and like if there are 7 fewer legacy kids getting accidental legacies anymore, like that's 7 more slots for my students, which is. It always just seemed like the numbers were so small that like it was not worth really worrying about.
Mm-hmm.
However, as we'll get to there are that's why I want to do the episode to talk about like there actually are numbers about how racial breakdowns change at different schools, and I find that pretty interesting. Like there will be results. Honestly, if you ask me this again in 2 or 3 years, I think I'd have a much better answer because that's how I feel about the Supreme Court decision. It's like I really have much more of an opinion about like what it is and how to do it now that I've seen what the fallout is, because there's always going to be 2 aspects of this. One is them changing all the gears, and like it's 3. Like 2, them reacting to those gears changing, and like that's kind of where I see it. And then it takes a while. I have to like then apply with my students and see this like with the bigger picture. Is like one line is like don't believe what they say, like believe what they do, and like those kind of stats are like what fascinate me because of that. For an underrepresented student, yeah, I mean, I would hope you would be applying because you want to get in and think you have a good shot, and like for other reasons. I would not say that this is suddenly like some gold rush that students can fill those holes. I'm of a 2,000 student class. My guess is there are. I mean, how many legacies do you think get in every? I'm sure that number's out there, but like
I can tell you for Stanford, for fall of 2023, 15.4% of their class had some type of either legacy or donor status, and then about 20% were first generation college students.
So that's 15% of about 2,000 kids. That's about 300 students probably. My guess is about maybe half or so of those will still be there just because they're fabulous students. Like they're strong applicants and they do get in. Of the other 150.
So now that opens up those slots.
It's hard for me to break that down. My guess is another 50 of them still find their way in. So that's maybe 100 extra slots available, which is not nothing.
Right.
And yeah, so maybe that's how I feel. It's like you now have a 5% higher chance to get into Stanford, which is not nothing.
Right.
That's how I see these things. Like maybe that kind of breaks down to like why I can be so like cold and callous about like I don't know how I feel about it. It's just like well, this is what it means to me.
Right. You just have to be calculating about it.
If anything, maybe there's more value in applying restricted early action now if you're not a legacy. Maybe if you want me to throw out like something there, because the night about restricted early action is it's like where these hooked applicants, and like legacy was a hook. That is where they get their ins, and often that kind of leaves not a lot of time or energy for everybody else. I guess in theory, it is now easier to get into restricted early action to Stanford because they have to let someone in. And I will be fascinated to see what the REA numbers are versus previous years.
Interesting.
Like that is the one stat I think will make the most sense to me, because that's where that's where the legacies get into the school. That is via the restricted early action or ED round. It would be silly not to even try. Like I don't think I'm having some crazy idea that if you are a legacy, you should apply restricted early action to these schools. So like that is the vast majority of what students are doing in the first place.
So do you think then like USC and Stanford, they're going to make changes to their admissions process with this change?
I think they're going to wait and see, but they're going to suddenly notice that not as many people are coming to their overpriced fish luncheon. Like that's
right.
That's where, and they know this. They're not stupid. Like that's. I mean, I go undercover to like a like if I'm a crappy New York Times journalist, like Stanford legacy lunch after the boom. It's like there's like 2 people there. It's like I just love Stanford so much. Like yeah, like that's when how they're gonna feel it, because those things are real. You know, like their $1,000 dinner with some crappy Stanford professor talking or what have you. Those things are not gonna be the hot ticket item like they once were. And I don't know what they're going to do. Like this is somewhat unique in that like all the past have been schools that like the UC system or MIT or what have you, that like seems like MIT is too good for that kind of thing, or like it makes sense for state schools not to really like imply it. This is a big news story, particularly for Stanford, because this is one of the hipsters, one of the giants that is who they're being screwed with. And they were screwed with a year ago with the Supreme Court decision. They were screwed with a few years ago with COVID, and they were screwed with right before that with the Varsity Blue scandal. And every time I experience when these top schools are screwed with, they do react. Like there is a move. That's the best I can offer right now as someone who's been like for 6 years is like I don't know that I was going to have it, except that my history has been that these schools, they play defense basically. They tend to play defense when there is something that changes, and they try to revert back to specifically to try to get back to the status quo. Like that's what they want to do. They want everything to be just the way it always was when there were no problems. And they tend to make moves that are surprisingly quick and kind of, well, very businesslike, if you will. And the best I can. That's my job. I often see them like when I'm filling out the application with students. We'll see next year. That's when I'll get my first glimpse, and then actually getting to see some of the numbers, how they change. Like that's how we'll get to know.
Yeah. And so do you think then, like taking away these legacy and donor admissions, do you think then the profile of the students who are admitted to Stanford and USC are going to change? Like, do you think that percentage is going to go down for, the donor admissions, but, maybe reframed in a different way? Or are they going to try to keep that percentage the same?
I'll admit I'm much more familiar with legacy admission than donor admission. That's why I wore the hat for both. But
yeah,
that one, there's another consultant that I have a much better idea of what that means, because these schools might be freaking out about those. Like I'm talking about $1,000 plate luncheons, and like they care, but there are some big time players, especially in the international space, when it comes to those that dean's exempt list. And I'm simply not the guy who tries to gets kid on. I do believe a lot of those are international, so like and like you can imagine like the power and influence and money that might like flow in from, say, a Saudi Arabia or a China or something like that.
Yeah.
But with legacy ones, well, I harp back to the idea that the vast majority of legacy admits, and probably donors, not as much, like are excellent, fabulous students in the first place, if only so far as, well, by nature of their parents going to the elite schools and having the money and wherewithal to like be a good legacy kind of thing. Those students tend to be both like, well, pretty well supported financially, as well as like home life, as well as have parents who are in the game. Like they obviously care deeply about their as many parents we work with, like legacy or not, do about their kids. The difference is like they have the wherewithal and the drive to like go to all these boring ass meetings and everything. Like I can only imagine the type of energy and time and money, if they're willing to be donating to schools, like guys like me or other consultants or tutors, preps, whatever you got to get. Like there is a way to bolster an application, and often it's a matter of being somewhere between like being crafty and being willing to pay for support. There is definite, like this is not chaos. This is not a lottery. There definitely is rationale to who gets into these top programs and why, to the point where I see, I meet students pretty quickly, and just looking at their application, looking at their, they always have the good stats, but looking at their extracurriculars, like it's very quick and easy for me to kind of slot them into like where I think they place. And those results tend to be fairly accurate based on how they actually do.
Right.
And that is before I even ask, like, where did mom go to college? If you just go there and be like, the Stanford freshman class looks it's going to look exactly the same. Like it's going to look exactly the same.
Okay.
And it will seem exactly the same, because I don't think legacy kids are usually like, unless they like super aren't in the business to be like, my mother went here, that is why I have a proud cardinal. It's gonna be business usual in that regard. Like this is much more about the inside workings. Like and yeah, if there's never gonna be a guest on the show. Like we just hang out, but like that is the one aspect of this that I have a blind spot, is like donor admission is that donor list. I just don't know how that even really works as well, because I don't play it. But my guess is that they like Stanford is not thrilled about the legacy, but they're like, maybe they see it as like cost of doing, stand of the times kind of thing, like whatever. Yeah. I imagine that donor thing, they are freaking out right now, and they're fucking furious.
It's funny that you say that, because so USC had a statement. They actually said, we're going to comply with the law. Stanford came out and said, we're going to review our process and get back to you on this. So yeah, you're like right on point there.
Yeah. And because I don't think Chinese oil diplomats are sending XXX million to the University of Southern California so their little darling can go there for film school. Like they don't like who care? I'm not saying I'm yeah, USC is, it's interesting about, we talk about Stanford and USC. USC is right on the precipice of, I get why they would care about this. Like there is inherent value.
Right.
Like it's for the same reason that if I was like USC, I joke, is it's the lowest tier school that a TikToker can be like, I went to USC. You can trust my, like that is the bottom of the list. Every school like less prestigious than that, it doesn't have like you suddenly like no one cares. It's like Boston College is right below that, and then that's the end of the list.
Right.
Stanford is Stanford. And you mentioned the Claremont schools might get like Harvey Mudd, yeah, like Harvey Mudd and Pomona probably are the two that like actually are kind of upset about this. I don't think Scripps is having the same issue, because just different schools carry different value that tends to inherently be linked to how hard it is to get into them, fair or not. Those are the ones that offer that carrot of, here is an easier way to get into the school. I'm glad you made me seem smart, but that's like I was worried about like gotcha journalism. It's like, then how do you respond to this, Mattie? Stanford wants nothing more than this to quietly go away as they don't change a damn thing.
Sounds like it,
And
yeah.
we're not going to let them, because we're here for you. So like, please, we will continue to update you on the Stanford, because yeah, like that's yeah. They're like, we're going to figure it out.
Yes.
And my guess is this will quietly go away, and it will remind me of a few years ago when Berkeley was in hot water for letting in more. When Berkeley was in hot water for letting in too many out-of-state and international students,
Right,
because
right.
so that they could make more money. And like, no hat, like there was a bunch of news reports coming out, and the government was getting mad and like that. Then it quietly went away, and I always assumed that there was some sort of backroom conversation / deal where like it was, and it would not shock me if Stanford is at least angling for a similar discussion with me with Mr. Newsom himself. It's like, and that's. And to be fair, there are things that California itself would want out of Stanford University, and like, this is all politics, you know. Like it would not shock me if this is a move on California's part as well. Like that's all very much hat, but like there's things, there are concessions that Stanford could make that the California state government would be interested in, I bet, to try to get around this, because there's a lot of money at play. So that's my guess is what they're angling for.
And I guess just to wrap up then, so like students and their parents who are watching this and might be applying next year and subsequent years, like what kind of advice or takeaways do you have for them?
Well, if you are a bad legacy, like, just keep being a bad legacy, you know, like, but I get probably the family that's really wants to know is bring out is like the good legacy.
That's a good point.
What are you, if you and your parents, you spent the last, your parents graduated 20, 25, 30, whatever, and they've, you know, like you have your own books, like, you know, you've donated a lot of money, like whether you tell people or not, you know, you've spent a lot of time and energy, and it's because you want your child to be able to attend the school, and there's nothing wrong with that. Like, that's something I want to make it clear. There's absolutely nothing wrong with a legacy. Should not feel bad for playing the system as it's designed. However, now the system is screwing you over at the finish line, and yikes. I would let's say if it's the next two, if your child's in high school, I would keep on keeping on business as usual. Like going to these boring dinners and everything, and having some really tense, like awkward conversations with other people there, be like, yes, I loved hearing this. This is the historian discuss his new literature book. I love my own child to be able to do that. Yes, this seafood was right. Like, it's gonna happen, you know.
Yeah.
Like, I'm not, and it should make clear that, like, I'm not crazy. Like, you're not going to this shit because you want to, and there's nothing wrong with that. However, I would keep, if your child's in high school, like sophomore, like keep on keeping on, because this almost has to put the hat back on. It's like there's no promises what these schools are going to do. They're black boxes. They're privatized companies, and you buy yourself time. Like, don't bail. Don't just like stop it, because they are. I say the casinos mixed with hedge funds. Like, they are tracking everything you do. Like, all the events you go to, every dime you spend. Like, they know, and they're still going to know all. They will still know all that one way or another, because it is their books, and they're the ones who keep them. Just keep on keeping on, and let time pass. Like, sometimes the best strategy is like keep on keeping on. Don't do anything radical. And wait for more news to come out, like a better understanding of what this really means. Because whereas
don't panic yet.
Don't panic. Whereas if you have a very young child or anything, it's like why don't you maybe take a few years off the Stanford circuit, unless you really want to, because if you are currently, you know, you probably have a 6-year-old or whatever, and like there are some people who are gonna listen to this and be like, dude, this guy is like fucking putting a bullet in my head. Like, he's totally right. Like, this is my life right now. Like, yeah. Like, and like, that's why you need your buddy Mattie. Chill out for a while. Give it give it 3 or 4 years. They're not going to penalize you because you stopped going when everyone thought that it didn't matter, and then when it turned out 4 years later that they move some chairs around, it matters again. You can start coming again.
Right.
Basically, yes. If your child is in high school, I would keep on keeping on, pretty much at the rate. Maybe save the checkbook for a little bit later now. Like, maybe don't like, this isn't the time you randomly give them like $65,000 or whatever.
Right.
But like, keep doing whatever you've been doing, because it does matter in that regard. And like, I think if your takeaway of like, are you a good legacy or a bad legacy, might connect with people, because that really is how I see it. There's different types.
That's a good point. Yeah. Well, thanks for talking about this breaking news with me. Can't wait to hear what we're going to talk about next time.
Thank you, Michelle. I think next time we might go the other side of the coin, talk about the affirmative action decision, because it came up multiple times, and I do believe that it's fair to give like both aspects of it, because I do see them as somewhat linked. And yeah, maybe next time.
All right. Catch you next time.
Next time.
Yeah.
Thank you, Michelle. See ya.
See ya.
Thank you for watching College with Mattie. For more information or a coaching session with Mattie, visit collegewithmattie.com. You can follow College with Mattie on Instagram, TikTok, and Facebook. Tune in next week for more episodes, and don't forget to like, share, and subscribe.